Welcome in, everyone. We're going to call this meeting to order now. It is 7:02 p.m. on May 16th, and this is a public meeting of the City of Portland's Police Accountability Commission. If Spanish language interpreter Maria can please give the information on Spanish language interpretation.
Yes. Buenas tardes a todos que están hoy. Hoy es la reunión de la responsabilidad policíaca. Son las 7:02 de la tarde, el 16 de mayo. Es una reunión pública. Ahorita, María, yo le vamos a dar la información de la interpretación. Aquí está Marta. Me imagino que, are you going to start the globe? Yes. Ya va a empezar con lo que es el canal de interpretación. Va a haber un globo abajo que dice Spanish, English. Entonces le dan en Spanish para que vayan al canal de español. Okay.
Thank you so very much.
Okay.
The city also offers ASL interpretation, which is being provided by Amanda and Andrea. You can pin their video feed if that is helpful to you. Finally, the closed captioning is turned on in Zoom as another means of assistance. But please note that this is an automatic captioning service and it is not always accurate. The city supports access to meetings of the Police Accountability Commission and can provide other language support as well. Please email in advance of future public meetings, either as a response to a public meeting notice or directly to policeaccountability@portlandoregon.gov to ask for other access assistance, including interpretation into other languages. This meeting is a public meeting subject to City of Portland Administrative Code and Oregon State law and is being recorded. For this meeting, the chat function is enabled for commission members to communicate with each other. Members of the public will be able to ask questions using Zoom's Q&A feature. As the commissioners are presenting and or discussing things, if attendees have questions, please feel free to submit them to the Q&A. We hope to use this feature to help guide our conversation during the meeting and future meetings agenda topics. We'd like to be clear that not all questions will be answered during the meeting, but if answered, both the question and the answer will be visible to you and will become part of the meeting record. To access this feature, just click on Q&A icon in the middle of your screen. I would like to present the land acknowledgement at this time. I'll go ahead and share my screen. This screen. The purpose of our land acknowledgement is to center the traditional native inhabitants of the land upon which we live. We want to respectfully acknowledge the Chinook, the Clatskanie, the Kalapuya, and the Multnomah and the Clackamas, two tribal nations who are missing from this map, who are now part of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde because of the genocide that occurred in the creation of this country. We honor those who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We pay our personal respects to their elders, both past and present. I believe I am now sending the meeting over to Iomide.
Thank you, Christine. At this point, we're going to hear from the co-chairs about the timeline.
Hi, I can do that part. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Livisa Lloyd, Commissioner. The Commission began meeting in December and concluded its organizational phase of work at the end of March. As part of that organizational phase, the Commission adopted an agenda and scope document that organized the rest of its work. That document defined the current phase as the fact-finding phase. This phase is expected to go until early July and includes hearing from key stakeholders, identifying barriers to accountability in Portland presently, and examining systems of accountability from other jurisdictions. It also includes increased community engagement work. Future phases of work will develop the parameters for the new police accountability system before the Commission presents that to the City Council in 2023 for their consideration and approval. I think next slide, please. Yeah. Today is a work session on internal processes designed to conclude ongoing conversations on potential changes to the bylaws, a letter the PAC might send to the City Council on quorum issues, and a draft document addressing internal processes that are lower profile than the bylaws, but which the Commission might still want to write down and formalize. On May 5th, the Commission will hold, oh, sorry, this is old.
It's actually May 23rd is the next thing on here. It says May 19th on the slide. Apologies.
Okay. Yeah, on May 19th, we will hold a work session on independent police review.
It's on May 23rd. Apologies, the slide is incorrect.
Sorry, May 23rd, not May 26th. Okay, thank you.
No, that what says May 19th should say May 23rd.
23rd.
Oh, sorry. Okay, May 23rd. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, and then I think we'll be announcing more calendar items later on this week.
Beautiful. Thank you so very much, Livisa. I totally appreciate that. I believe our next slide is the community agreements. So please keep the needs and concerns of the local community and the larger region at the forefront of the work. Keep focus on the objectives of the meeting and individual agenda items. Utilize facilitators to note additional topics for discussion. Arrive on time and prepared to the best of your ability. Let the group know if you're unable to attend a meeting. Keep multitasking to a minimum. Contribute to the overall success of the group by finding ways to participate that best meets your needs. Treat each other with respect and be supportive of each other. Keep in mind that everyone has their own truth. Listen without agenda and refrain from interruptions. Be polite, courteous, and thoughtful. Assume good intentions from your colleagues and collaborators. Challenge ideas rather than individuals. Approach different opinions with curiosity and seek to understand. Use I statements. So affirm other speakers. Do not use violent words. Instead of say something positive about the previous speaker, and simply add your own thoughts. Respect privacy. Everything shared in confidence needs to be kept in confidence, and honor the decisions of the group. These are your community agreements. Thank you.
I would just like to ask if does everyone agree to this? And by a show of hands, thumbs up, something to the nature of an agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if I saw Eric's. Commissioner Hunter's. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So I guess move to slide 7, please. And would we like to co-chairs go over the agenda, please?
I got this. Good evening. My name is Faith Aiken. I'm one of the co-chairs of the fact-finding phase of this commission. And so this evening, we are working through some internal processes, hopefully our last meeting on internal processes. So we will be covering potential changes to the bylaws, a draft letter to City Council on details of a quorum issue, a draft internal process document that highlights community agreements, communication guidelines, and general operating procedures. And then finally, we will open up for public comment.
So my question would be, does anybody have any proposed changes to the bylaws? Any of the commissioners? I don't see any hands. Let me make sure I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Okay. Great. Since there are no proposed changes to the bylaws, I will ask if there's just consensus, just so I can see a show of hands. Thank you, commissioners. And I guess we'll proceed to the next doc. Oh, Jason, you have your hand up, or is that just to show hands?
Why don't we have comment before asking whether there's consensus?
I made a mistake. Thank you for catching that, Jason. So I will go to public comment. If there is.
Sorry, I was referring to comment from the commissioners.
Oh, well, I didn't see anybody want to speak. Do you have something to say, Jason?
You didn't ask people if they wanted to speak. Yeah, I don't know changes to the bylaws at this point, but I would ask that the bylaws, this conversation remain open, that we not fix the bylaws in amber, that we be able to come back to the bylaws at a future time and make changes to the bylaws as needed. I'd ask for a vote, which includes that amendment to the current agreement on the current bylaws.
I also saw Sophia's hand up.
Well, I put it up and then I put it down, but since you caught it, I will make a comment and just to say that in the current bylaw, we have an article in there for revisiting the bylaws. So
Yeah,
that's already included in there. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
I also was just asking about consensus to moving on so we can go on to the next order of business, because since the bylaws have already been approved. So any comments that are needed, please feel free to continue them now if it's needed in regards to the bylaw changes, but otherwise we should move on to other business. Okay, wonderful. So public comment. I don't believe that we need public comment, but I'm just double checking here. Since this has already been something that's been approved and there are no changes. Just to make sure that there isn't anyone that wants to speak, I just want to put out there if there is public comment. We ask that you have it in 2 minutes in length. Please raise your hand in the Zoom feature and you'll be called on, which is at the bottom of your screen. Okay, I don't see anyone that has any questions, so I will move on. Draft to the City Council, the letter on quorum issues. I believe that there is a discussion that needs to be had about this letter. Co-chairs, would you mind starting off the conversation?
Yeah, maybe it would be helpful for us to just go over the high level, what the 2 requests are within this letter, and then we can move or talk about what next steps are. So the first request, we have as many as 20 members. When there are fewer than 20 members, due to resignation, removal, or leave of absence, the quorum to require to hold meetings shall be based on the number of active members rather than the maximum number of seats. And Dan suggested the inclusion of the number of active members shall nonetheless be a minimum of 12. The comments that were given by email as this were circulated have been added. So are there any additional thoughts or questions about this first request or strong feelings or mediocre feelings?
I saw Winta and then Commissioner Hunter.
Thank you. Just a quick question, and forgive me, I don't have it in front of me, but the ballot measure did not stipulate what the membership of the commission had to be, right? Like there's no legal, we don't run against any legal issues by changing the quorum requirement. I just want to confirm that that's true.
Support staff.
Yeah, the ballot measure doesn't have anything to say about the commission whatsoever. But there is a resolution that defines the commission as 20 members. It is a city council resolution, and I believe it is in both resolution 37-527 and 37-547. I'll put the links in the chat.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hunter.
I was gonna say, I support the letter and this addition. I'm not sure if 12 is a magic number. I don't know exactly where that came from, but I don't have a problem with that either. But I think changing the requirement to be active members is an important piece to keep the work moving. So I appreciate Dan for bringing that up.
Commissioner Glenn. Thank you, Commissioner Hunter.
Thank you. I wanted to ask Dan, I know Dan sent out an email saying that he had went before the city commissioners to talk about this issue, and the city commissioners, I'm just gonna, I don't have the exact words, but they said they were more concerned about keeping it staffed than to change the quorum. So I just wanted to, I know that the city commissioners have had heard this already, And that was the comment that Dan provided. So I'm just trying to figure out, do we still need to do this? It just didn't sound like they were really on board with changing the quorum. So that's just a question for the group.
Commissioner Handelman. Thank you, Commissioner Glenn.
Yes, thank you for bringing it up, Commissioner Glenn. So it wasn't I who was speaking to council. It was actually another member of Portland Cop Watch that brought it up, and 2 members of council, and there's 5, so that's not a majority. So that's important. But Mayor Wheeler and Commissioner Hardesty said, "Don't you think it would be better?" And this I'm paraphrasing. "Don't you think it would be better if we just keep filling up the seats with a diverse membership to make sure the commission can keep doing its work?" And the member of Cop Watch responded fairly quickly, "Don't you think we should do both?" And I think that's what this letter gets at. If you see the second request has to do with filling the seats, but I think especially given the experience that we had 2 weeks ago for this meeting that we're having now, I think it'd be a good idea to ask them to include both in the resolution. And getting back to the question about the legality and the existing resolution, that's why we have to write this letter to council, because we can't reset that quorum on our own. But if they write a new resolution amending that resolution to accept these proposals, then I believe this can be done. That's my thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Handelman. Commissioner Glenn.
I just have one more question with relation, because this is something that
Commissioner Glenn,
has
you're
been talking about for a while. And did we ever get a response from the attorney's office on that? I thought that was brought up before, and can somebody remember what that response was from the attorney's office?
We actually have a city attorney on the call if you'd like to recognize her.
Yes. Hello, Sarah. Sarah Ames. Is your hand still up, Commissioner Glenn? Okay. Sarah Ames, would you like to speak on that? She seems to be unmuted, but her voice is not heard. Is there something I'm supposed to do?
No.
Okay. I'm just making sure. We can't hear you if you're speaking. Yeah. Oh, there you are. Hi. We still can't hear you yet. Yeah. Even though it says you're unmuted. Maybe it's your headset.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. All
Thank
right. Well, I had the headphones, whatever. Yes, I did look into this, and it does seem, as I had advised before, that under the current status of the city councils, the resolutions that they have passed, you do need the kind of the default state quorum of a majority of the membership. The city council does have the legal authority to change your quorum requirement. For example, some of you know that the IPR CRC, they are 11-member board, and in city code, it's written that they only need 5 members for a quorum. So there are some different options available. And if you've presented a lot of different options, I think about 4 different kind of ideas to help you through the challenges of maintaining a quorum. And if the council members are interested in following up on it, then they have the authority to do that. And we can help them figure out exactly what steps and how to, pass that as a resolution. That would not be an issue, but I haven't, developed any kind of code language or your resolution language around it, because, you know, see if the council wants to take you up on these suggestions and which ones.
Thank you, City Attorney Sarah Ames, for your comments. Does anybody else have any more comments or questions about this? Particular comment?
Okay, should we move on to request number 2?
Well, okay, hold on. Can I make a comment on Commissioner Handelman's suggested language? Why 12?
Commissioner Handelman?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that question. I thought about this a little bit. You know, my complete email gave a little bit more context. I mean, I certainly don't think it would be good for the commission to ever get down below 11 people, which is right now a quorum, and then try to make decisions on behalf of what would supposedly be 20 people. And then I was thinking that, you know, 11 itself would allow for there to only be 6 people out of the original 20. So I thought that 12 would be a better number, because in that way, the quorum to have a meeting, if we have, you know, somehow 4 empty seats and 4 people on leave of absence, the quorum would still be 7, which I think is a reasonable number. But I would hope that at that point, most everybody would be showing up. I think that, you know, I really want to make it so that the city council doesn't feel that we're asking to be able to have a commission that only has 4 or 5 people in it, because that's not the intention, right? The intention is for, if people are on leave of absence or resign, that we can keep doing our work without running into the problem we had 2 weeks ago. So that's why I came up with the 12 number. We can change it if people want to. And, you know, while I have the floor, I consider that we might have to change the bylaws around this, but I think we should not think about that until the city council responds. And if they change the resolution, then we should revisit and, you know, put that, whatever that minimum number is, in the bylaws.
Thank you, Commissioner Handelman. Any other comments? Commissioner Charlie?
Hi, I was just curious, and forgive my lack of remembering, but what was the number we had last time when we had to cancel the meeting on the May 2nd?
10 people showed up.
And what has been our normal average, I guess I could say?
I would say probably about 15 to 17. Samir, do you have the numbers for that?
I don't have an average, but I'd say 14 to 16. We've had as many as 18 at a meeting once. That's the.
So then 12 would assure we probably won't run into that same situation again. I'm just thinking out loud. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Charlie. Commissioner Sophia?
So I'm going back to the verbiage on the document. So is it suggesting that I'm just trying to understand the 12 to the number of active members shall be none less than a minimum of 12. So are we talking about members or are we talking about quorum? I know the maximum number of seats is 20. So are you suggesting that there's a minimum number? I guess I'm not understanding that, because it seems like the commissioners, the city commissioners have already decided that they were going to try and make sure that we have a full seat. So I'm just trying to understand it. The 12, is it 12 members or is it? I'm just trying to understand the 12. I'm thanking Lavisa for bringing that up because I didn't quite understand it either.
I see Commissioner Hunter's hand up.
Yeah, I don't know if Commissioner Handelman will sit, but I mean, the impression I get is we're not talking about changing the number of members on the commission at all with that 12. That's the number of active members that would be used to calculate the quorum. So if there are ever less than 12 active members, then we wouldn't be able to meet anyway. So if there are 3 resignations and 6 people with leave of absence, that's 11. So we couldn't even trigger this and meet, even though, you know, the quorum was a percent of active members.
So I'm sorry.
That changes every day.
Okay, I thought we were just trying to take the number of people who were active, regardless of the number, to meet quorum, to not include them in the quorum as whatever. I don't know, I guess it's a percent or a number. As I don't know, is it 50% or 51? You know what I'm saying? I'm just not sure if we need that, if we're just counting the ones that are already there. Why is there a minimum? I think that would just put us in another little predicament. That's my thought. I didn't have time to think it all through. So I'm done with my comments. Thank you.
Co-chair CMOB, you had your hand raised or no?
I did for a moment, but then Sophia asked that second question. I think oh, hello. Am I here?
Yeah, you're here.
My computer did something weird.
We can hear you.
Yeah, no, I believe minimum and or present, right? For of 12 members, to be able to make sure that we can maintain at least minimum quorum. But as far as the follow-up question that Commissioner Glenn had, it's a good question. But I think it's one that Dan, I would refer back to Dan because Dan had the clear answer for it earlier.
And I see that Commissioner Handelman's hand's up. But before I call on you, Commissioner Charlie, is your hand up or is it just up? Because of, okay. Okay, good. Go ahead, Commissioner Handelman. Thank you.
Thank you again. So I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Dan Handelman. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a member of the commission. And yet, no, the language that's written specifically says the minimum number of active members will be 12. So that means that if we have 3 resignations for some reason, I mean, we've already had 2 people resign for various reasons, and, about things they had to do in their own lives. In the first 5 months of our 18-month tenure, we don't know if there possibly that 3 people could do it all at once, and then another, several people want to take some time off because something's happening in their lives where they can't participate right now, but they'll come back when they're ready. We already had 1 person doing that right now. So, I don't think we'll ever get down to 12, but I'd rather not find ourselves in that place without this, without flexibility to do this. We saw this happen with the Community Oversight Advisory Board. We saw this happen right now. I mean, the Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing only has 7 of its 13 members. And because they are a different kind of body than we are, they don't have to have a quorum to meet and talk with each other. So they only had 6 people at their last meeting, but that's fewer than their quorum. But if they were going on active membership and they had a minimum of 7, then they could meet with 4 people right now and still deliberate and vote on things. So just based on other advisory bodies, particularly by advisory bodies around police issues that have happened over the years, I think this would be just a good thing for us to have as a backstop so we can make sure that we can keep operating.
Thank you, Commissioner Handelman. Co-chair Faith.
Yeah, so I think if I'm understanding, the issue in this request is not around the addendum of that sentence, is around the number of quorum members. That's your intent, Dan, so that it's like if for whatever reason, we were 5 active members, we don't just want 3 people voting. So in the case of 12 members, then 7 would be the lowest number for quorum. So might I suggest, instead of us talking about the number of members, we just change that sentence to say the lowest number would be 7 to achieve quorum. Obviously happy to wordsmith that, but that way we're not switching from quorum to minimum membership.
Commissioner Dan?
Oh, I think that's a great idea. I think we should leave both sentences in, and then that way, hopefully, it'll be very, very clear. Right? Because then, hopefully, reading the entirety, people will understand the answer to the questions that have been raised right now.
Thank you, Commissioner Handelman. Are there any other comments about the latest sentence added? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody having comments. Do we have consensus on this particular portion to where we can move on further down the document? CMOB, Commissioner CMOB. Okay, that was just a thumbs up.
I was just putting up my digital hand.
Okay, good. Just making sure. I see lots of screens off, so I just wanted to make sure that I'm getting everybody's hands and fingers and smiles saying yes or no.
Yeah, apologies for having my screen off earlier. I was eating.
Yes.
I'm a sloppy eater.
Okay, no strong opposition. Okay. I think we can move on further down the. I didn't see anything from May or Winta either. I just wanted to make sure.
All good.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's proceed.
Okay, so request number 2 is a request that reads, City Council shall identify a pool of alternate commissioners from which new members can be selected in a timely way to fill vacancies on the commission. So I think the purpose of this is to make sure we are filling seats quickly. Are there thoughts or questions, concerns, feelings?
Commissioner Glenn?
I just wanted to get some clarification. I believe that the appointments are already being taken from the list of applicants. I don't know how many there were or how many they are, or is there a continuous open application process for commissioners? But I do know previously that the last 2 commissioners were on the list of people who applied. So I don't know if that answers that. And then the other question is like I said, I don't know how many applied, and is that going to be like an open application process for the commission to choose from? That's it. Thank you.
Are there Samir?
Yeah, just to answer from a factual perspective on Commissioner Sophia's first question, there's no, the the pool of applicants from the original round of applications, which closed on March 15th, 2021, is what the council has used so far to fill the 2 vacancies that they have filled so far. That pool is over 100 people who not all fit the eligibility for all the different categories. So it's a much smaller number depending on which category of membership of the 4 categories of membership on this commission that the vacancy would exist in. And those 4 categories are over police community members, representatives from over police community organizations, representatives from community justice organizations, and small business representatives.
Co-chair Lavisa.
Sure. I just wanted to note that kind of due to some of these things related to the categories that Samir just brought up, that I do think the suggestion to write a resolution that sort of has maybe a short list of possible alternative members, it does pose some logistical questions, and that there essentially would need to be like 4 lists, because there are the 4 categories that each commissioner fits. And also it would, I mean, unless if those lists are ranked, then it removes a lot of the discretion that exists in the process right now to pick someone who is a better fit, maybe overall, for whatever the commission has lost in terms of somebody who has left the commission. So those are just some things to think about.
Any Commissioner Handelman?
Yeah, I don't have the resolution in front of me, but I'm pretty sure there's language in there that says they can reach outside of one of their categories if they need to. I'll see if I can dig that up. I don't want to do too much, what do you call it, multitasking. But I'm pretty sure there's language in there. And it'd be helpful if staff, if you can paste those 4 categories in the chat for everybody to review and think about as well. Thank you.
Co-chair Lavisa?
Sure. Yeah, thanks. I also wanted to say that I'm not totally, if the goal is expediting the appointment of new commissioners, I'm not really convinced that it's the selection process itself that is the slow part of the appointment. Kind of my understanding from talking to staff and just seeing a little bit more about the process is that a lot of it is the sort of the hoop jumping of bureaucracy, which has now been streamlined a lot since they've done it a couple of times. So yeah. So I guess that makes me wonder whether or not this is really necessary, or if the juice is really worth the squeeze.
Commissioner Angie?
I love the expression that Commissioner Lavisa just used, and I too second that. Being somebody that has experienced working for the bureaucracy of the city of Portland, I know that a lot of the slowness for at least the first, I would imagine that the slowness in the first appointment did have to do more with navigating the way that it has to be done. And hopefully over time, staff will can have the opportunity to do it quicker. But that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Commissioner Jason?
In the authorship of this, the concern was not about the current status, but about some future status. And what's remembered in the police reform community is that the city council did starve the COAB for months and months, not appointing people in order to cause them to not be able to make decisions. And so this letter, this request, identifies this concern and puts this forward as a solution. There's no trouble in asking for solutions. Will be trouble or would be trouble going to them at a later state when there's acrimony and saying, you need to do this thing.
Thank you, Commissioner Jason. Commissioner Sophia?
I understand, Jason and Dan's request. But my thought is, I keep hearing about these other committees, and we are not those other committees. And I understand that those experiences are very different from this commission. They have different rules. They have a whole different platform. We have rules here. It's state law, and I think it's much different. And I would like to hear us just talk about ourselves and not worry about all the other things in the past, just be cognizant that there could be issues, but don't make those our issues. Because at this point, we are a very different group. And I understand that there were other issues with those folks, a lot of backbiting with each other, which has caused a lot of problems. And of course, their rules are different. So I just want to caution us from going back to these other organizations that some folks have been part of, and to focus on us and how we would like to conduct ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Glenn. Commissioner Hunter, and then co-chair.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that I think the idea behind asking them to expedite appointments is a good one. I also think that the past is predictive of the future. You know, I wish we could hope all was going to be great moving forward. But I think from a logistics standpoint, I think more to Lavissa's point, I think that with the requirements of certain categories of member, it might be logistically difficult to have 4 or 5 people in the wings ready to step in, depending on which, they might all be from one of the 4 categories, right? So potentially, maybe instead of the formality of alternate commissioners, we simply, one, make the request that we encourage them to continue to expedite the process, but maybe ask each commissioner to have 4 people, 1 in each category, at the ready to expedite the process, so that whoever drops off from whatever commissioner, whatever category, they've got someone in the wings, so they don't have to go back to the list and find somebody that they can just bring them to the next meeting and move it on. And that might meet both of our needs and sort of not hamstring them with changing the constructed group that was planned initially.
I saw co-chair Faith and then Commissioner Charlie.
I like that suggestion, Commissioner Hunter. I think it is taking us this long to agree on our letter. I cannot imagine how long it would take 15 of us to agree on who the next appointed commissioner would be and how we would reach consensus. So for the sake of administrative ease, I also, I would appreciate the vetting that's already been happening through City Council. I think there's also, I'm curious as to which City Council member selected myself and for what reason, but there is something politically tenable about a City Council member seeing, oh, that's the person that I appointed to that committee. And that down the road having some favor for us as we hope to make a resolution. So those are my two thoughts of, I think the section, we can be clear about the request of like with appreciation. And I saw your added comment of thank you for appointing 2 new members quickly. And hey, can you have some on the docket to back up because we're ready to go. But I don't know that I want to be in charge of making those sorts of decisions by consensus.
Thank you, Co-Chair Faith, Commissioner Charlie, and then I see Sarah Ames had a comment.
So this is for Samir, this question, and I think it's along the line of Commissioner Hunter. It might fit in there somewhere, but out of the 100+ applications minus us, have we weeded out those that are not qualified and put the remainder in categories already that could be potentially our pool for that? And what does that look like? Do we need to bring in more people to those pools?
Council has already determined which categories applicants fit into, and some applicants fit into more than one. So that's there. I did want to, I can't answer that question without clarifying another point, which is that although the resolution says, you know, that each council member will pick a number of commission members, that's not how it actually went. They worked together, all 5 council offices, to come up with a list of 20 people. And that's how it worked again the last 2 times. With replacements, they looked at lists of eligible candidates for the particular category and determined that they wanted to appoint this person for the first vacancy and the second person for the second vacancy. That does create a more collaborative council and collaborative approach to the commission's work. It does take a little bit longer than perhaps one person making a decision, one council member, but that is how it happened. And that's ostensibly how it would continue happening going forward. And yeah, maybe I can say more on this if anyone wants to hear it, but I'll let someone else talk on if not.
Deputy Attorney Sarah Ames.
Hi, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I just wanted to echo, I think Samir just made the point that it was a more collaborative process, and he's been working very closely with the full council on appointing the replacements. I think there are 2 reasons. I mean, one thing is a quick replacement, and the council's already shown their commitment to do that. But I think as you start working more on the fact finding, there might be some interest in having potential replacement folks from the list that of applicants originally, to let them know that they are still in the pool who might be considered for replacements, and without doing all the screening and all the work to do that. And then just invite them to, you know, observe your meetings and participate as community members. You might, I mean, because it would be harder in a few months after you've done a lot of fact finding to jump right in. And so that might help, you know, kind of if you do have to hire, have the council appoint replacements. But I do think that so far there has been, from my understanding from the staff, there has been a lot of interest, and the council has been very committed to making this work. But as Commissioner Lavisa pointed out, you know, with the different categories, and some of you fit different, you know, various categories, you fit into more than one category, and, you know, and there's different perspectives that you bring that aren't defined by the categories themselves. You know, it's not a science it's more of an art to figure out who's the best complement to the existing commission members, the ongoing ones to replace somebody. So I think that trying to name in advance the alternates who will just slot right in would be a challenge. That's within the kind of legal construct that the council's already approved for their appointments.
I just wanted to clarify one thing on a semi-related point. Commissioner Dan had mentioned the prospect that had that the council could choose to pick people from different categories. There's a quote in the chat, and they can do so. That is accurate. Quote, if there are insufficient qualified applicants to reflect the representatives stated in this paragraph, referring to the 4 categories. End quote, referring to the 4 categories. So just to clarify that as well.
Thank you, Samira. I just want to speak something into record for Commissioner May. She's in an area that's too loud. She says, Faith makes a good point. Selecting new commissioners may stall some of the work we are tasked to do. Just so her voice is being heard as well. Commissioner Dan?
Right, so just kind of getting back to the language that's actually in the draft we're looking at. We're asking the council to identify a pool of commissioners from which new members can be selected in a timely way to fill the vacancies on the commission. Then we're just telling the story about what happened to our commission when we didn't have enough people to make quorum. There's not any real reference to previous police accountability groups that had these problems. We've, this Commissioner Renaud and I have been referring to. It is about our commission and making sure we can keep going. And I really urge us to keep the second part in because of the response that my fellow Portland Cop Watch member had, where the 2 commissioners that spoke up said, "What about we just fill the seats?" Well, we agree with that. So we're saying we agree with that, but then we also want this, what we've already had consensus on, which is that we should also have the quorum go down as the number of active members go down. So I just think putting these 2 things together in a package is really important in order to get the city council's approval.
Co-Chair Faith?
Dan, I want to make sure, I'm sorry, Commissioner Handelman, I want to make sure that I understand because I think that you just clarified. So the way that I was interpreting this was, I'm just being loose. City Council, please choose 10 people, give us the list. Then as people become vacant, we'll just slot them in through us. So that's the way I interpreted it. Would you mind please repeating what you just said so that I understand more fully?
Commissioner.
Well, since you're a co-chair, I'll consider that I just got called on. Yes, you make a good point. I think that perhaps that the language is in passive voice. It says from which new members can be selected. So maybe we should write in from which council can select new members in a timely way. So we're clear we're asking them to make that selection and we're not trying to take that work away from them. Is that acceptable?
Got it. So I think I just want to repeat it back because I truly now I'm like, aha. So we're saying like, hey, City Council, please have the front of the list ready, categorized, and then when we have a vacancy, just pop them in there from your front of your list. That's the request we're making. Okay.
Yes, that was the intent behind the language, yes.
Great, thanks for that clarification.
Commissioner Glenn?
I just want to clarify the clarification, right? I want to make sure we're asking council to just keep a list of potential applicants, not to have people ready to just pop in. I mean, when you said pop in, Faith, I was just like, it's almost like they're already pre-selected.
No, sorry, I was just being flip with my language.
Okay.
And they're ready, they're ready to choose somebody.
Yeah, they have a pool of applicants to choose from, right? Yes, okay, that's what I want to just clarify the clarification. Thank you.
So thank you. I wanted to make sure that our scribe is getting enough time to do the scribing. Oh, and I see you, Co-Chair Lavisa. Sorry about that.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to ask if theoretically the city council did wish to starve this commission of it certainly seems like they still could do so, even if they did have this resolution, and even if they did have a short list. So I guess I'm wondering what benefit would it serve if that were the case? I'm not saying there's been the intention or that's the atmosphere, but I'm curious what benefit it serves if that is the case.
I think we got most of what you said, Lavisa. You kept cutting in and out. So if you wouldn't mind repeating that just to make sure that your words were heard clearly, that would be great.
Sure, sorry, I'll bring my speaker closer to me. I wanted to ask if the city council did wish to starve us of members, what benefit would having the short list serve in that circumstance?
Commissioner Jason?
We serve at the whim of city council, so they have ultimate power at all times, and that's the way it should be. But this announces a problem and or a potential problem, and it asks for infrastructure, not much, to be created to prepare for a quick transition of for new members. It just eliminates the fumbling that could be blamed for delay.
Thank you, Commissioner Jason. And I also just want to read into record Commissioner May. She says, thank you. That is how I interpret it as well. And then in terms of speaking, in terms of what Faith and Dan were talking about. And then it says, okay, now thanks. Okay, I understand now. Thanks, Dan. So she has more understanding about what you're saying too. Thank you. Commissioner Sophia.
I just have a question, sort of. I'm just thinking out loud with the group, just going through this. And I know we're taking some time on this, so I don't want to belabor it, but going back to what Commissioner Lavisa said, you know, I understand us all wanting to make sure I want this thing to go as well. I mean, I think we all do, right? We don't want to have any delays and malfunctions. And trying to prepare for that is not a bad thing. But also knowing that we don't have, as Commissioner Jason said, that we don't have ultimate control anyway. And I really do believe the other groups had all other kinds of issues. And our commission is mandated by state law, which makes things very different than the others. So I'm just saying, I agree. I don't know the answers, but you know, thinking through this, there's a lot more in my mind going on than we have control over. Thank you.
Okay, if there isn't any other comments, okay, thank you, Commissioner Hunter. I'd like to call for a break. Give our interpreters a moment to rest and to rest everyone's brains for a moment. Come back at 5 minutes. So I would say or 6 minutes, we'll do 8:13. Thank you. Thank you. Were there any other comments or questions about the section that we are speaking about today? Co-chair CMOB?
Yes. So my question is that, I mean, will this letter speed up a process that's already written to exist? And what I mean by written to exist is that, I mean, the city council, I guess, maybe not written to exist, but city council already has like a list of alternates. And how does this actually speed that process up?
Any, Commissioner Dan?
I can attempt to answer that. I think it's signaling that the city council is hearing from the commission as a whole that we're appreciative that they filled those seats that emptied out, and that we would like to see that continue to happen in a timely way moving forward, so that because they haven't heard anything from us. I mean, we're supposed to be getting them quarterly reports, and they haven't heard one yet. So this way, they will get a very clear message from us, along with the request to be able to change our quorum, about encouraging them about what they've already done and to continue doing that. I think it's really important, just for them to hear those messages from us, that we're appreciative of what they're already doing. It may not change anything, but it also will make it less likely that they'll ignore the first request because because we're recognizing the gestures they've made toward us.
I also want to be able to make sure that I open my question up not just to the commission, but to everybody present, including staff, in case there are other thoughts. I really want to hear it all.
Samir?
Yeah. So recognizing what both Commissioner Simok's question and Commissioner Dan's response, there's sort of two different things. One is the big picture behind the question, and then the second thing is the actual solution proposed. So I'll only speak to the solution proposed, which is the alternates. In the event that council would need to choose from a pool of applicants versus from a pool of alternates, it would be functionally the exact same process at the time of a vacancy. However, in the sense that they would still look at the list and work together to come up with a chosen replacement member. However, it just would mean narrowing down a list of people who are not eligible for that particular vacancy or not eligible for the commission at all, which may also be a concern, which again is already happening, or I should say it has already happened. So with that said, the alternate process would not have a functional difference in the way it's written now, when it says council can select, because it would still involve a selection process. And one other thing on a previous question, the administrative delay, I shouldn't say delay, the administrative time spent is the largest portion of the time between a member vacancy and a member replacement, as opposed to the need for council to determine who they want to put up. For example, council resolutions have to be posted a certain number of days in advance. They have to go through a process for approval by city attorney's office, bureaus, things like that, in order to get approved. That is what the bulk of the time was between the member resignation and member replacement in both cases, separate from council's deliberations.
Thank you, Samir. Commissioner Glenn?
I have some thoughts just for the group. Considering what Samir's already mentioned, and what Dan mentioned, I'm just going to rephrase it like we're adding the second request in there and we're buttering them up, right? That's the way I kind of took your comment. We're going to tell them that, thanks for doing this, but, just make sure you keep doing it. I'm just looking at it plainly. That's really not our realm. That's the commissioner's job. It has been mandated by state law, voted by Oregon voters. And I do believe that they're going to do their job and keep 20. And I know I hear everyone saying what goes in the PAC. That's a different group. It's a very different group. And it was not voted on by the state voters of Oregon. And I caution us from going into territories that trying to influence territories, maybe I should say. It may be preemptive, right? It may not be any problems. And and I do, I agree with going forward with the quorum. I'm just concerned that the second part may be something that we could probably do without for now and not try and butter folks up to see things our way. That's all. Thank you.
Commissioner Handelman.
Thank you for that comment. I just want to be clear, the two groups that we keep talking about, the Community Oversight Advisory Board and the Portland Committee on Community Engaged Policing, are federally mandated in the settlement agreement that the city said they agreed to because the federal government was suing the city for the police using too much force against people, especially people in mental health crisis. And the city said, we're going to create this community oversight board and have it do all this liaisoning with the community and oversee the agreement. And then that was the first one that disappeared. Now the second one that they created to replace that is down to 7 out of 13 members. So I don't know that it matters whether the people of Portland voted for this ballot measure or, our commission wasn't voted on specifically. It's the outcome of what our commission is creating that was voted on. So I think it is important for us to express this, and I don't see it hurting. I think that the main thing is I don't see how it would hurt anything to include this section. So I think it would be important for us to have both pieces, again, based on what the city council responded to when our most recent commissioner was appointed just a week or two ago. Thank you.
Co-chair Faith.
I'm watching the time and I want to end on time. So can we, let's read the room. Like, is there anyone who strongly objects to request number 2 being input in the letter? Strong objections to no, don't put it in. Are there folks who feel strongly that it should be put in the letter? If you're a strong that it should be put in the letter, okay. And for everyone else who didn't vote at all, who's neutral, are you okay with the strong yes carrying the vote through consensus?
Commissioner
Okay.
Mason, yes.
Okay, cool. So Samir, can you put it up on the screen real quick? Because I think that we talked through the language to clarify. So I know so request number 2, we would like City Council to adopt language by resolution, similar to this. City Council shall identify a pool of alternate commissioners from which council can select new members in a timely way to fill vacancies on the commission. Great, great. Okay, are there any strong feelings otherwise to what is written here?
Can we take it off full screen so I can see everyone? Thank you. I don't. Sophia? Oh, you're on mute.
I didn't get to read that paragraph in blue.
Oh, did you want it back up so you can see?
Yes,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
Sorry, I would suggest leaving out that paragraph and just asking for what we want.
All right, are you putting your hand up again to speak? No. Are there any? How would you like to proceed?
So, because we have to do everything by consensus, which I love. Sophia, do you feel strongly that that paragraph should not be included? You're on mute.
I would just prefer we just ask for what we want. It's not a strong one. I just think it's unnecessary. And I think it might be a little, I think we might get more with less. That's just my comment.
I want to give you permission to feel strongly if you feel strongly.
I just don't see that as being necessary. We just need to hit the point we want. I mean, we all agree that, I mean, I didn't have any strong agreement about asking for it. I just don't think that that paragraph is relevant to what we're asking for. I know it's an example, but I don't think we need to put that in there to get what we want.
Okay, the inverse. Are there people who feel strongly that that paragraph should be left in? Dan.
Well, the long story history of this letter is that it was written in March, and we had one member replaced at that time. So another member was appointed since that time, and we had this other experience since that time. And I think as much as we are focused on our work and what we're doing, I think the members of City Council aren't necessarily aware of the things that are going on, on a day-to-day basis with us. And I think it's important to include the context for them, make it easy for them, so that we don't have to go and meet with them one-on-one and kind of explain the letter. And this way, we have a paragraph explaining why it's important for the two proposals to be added. And that's why I drafted this and asked for it to be included. Thanks.
Commissioner Glenn, and then Co-Chair Sophia.
I don't have any problem with
Lisa?
I don't have any problems with the two letters. It's just the commissioners, they selected these other two people, so I do believe they know what's going on. So I don't think we need to remind them of that. And that's kind of why I'm feeling a little the way I feel about it. It's like, you don't need to remind them what they already know. And I think it might be a little contentious and a little bit, it's not necessary, and it's easier to avoid it. That's my thought.
Co-Chair Lavisa.
Sure, I'm also looking at the time, and we have another document that we'd love to get through, or that essentially we have to get through tonight. So do we think, is it possible for us to maybe move to like taking proposals on things so that we can get to a vote on the letter?
Commissioner May said, good point, Sophia, and I would also suggest maybe going to a vote at this point as well.
I just want to make sure I know what we're all voting on. So are the two options, the letter is what it is and keep the paragraph in, and the letter is what it is and take the paragraph out? Are those the two questions that we are deciding between?
Commissioner Winter also had a comment, and then Samir.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a clarifying question for Commissioner Glenn. Commissioner, I'm hearing you express your preference, but I'm not clear on whether the question was asked on if that preference is strong enough that you would block consensus, which is fine. But I guess if we take a vote, it feels like an expression of preference. And if we're trying to stick with consensus building, just asking, do you feel so strongly that you would block consensus is the question that I'm trying to understand. And then I'd ask the same for Commissioner Handelman.
Thank you, Commissioner Winter.
My suggestion was just to remove that paragraph, to poll the group to see if they felt that that might be something they would consider. So that's where I was coming from. I don't know if that answers
Yeah.
your question.
Well, I understand that, but I saw support in the group for including that second section. But where I think we lost clarity is on whether your preference, is it just that you would prefer we keep it in, or are you saying that we would not have consensus, that we would not have your support to move forward without that second piece?
I'm saying that in light of the group and our relationship with the city commissioners, it will be in our best interest as a commission to leave that out.
And if we do not, then we do not have your support in sending this letter.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm bringing that to the group as a thought.
So at this point, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I know. And I'm saying I do feel strongly about it. And that's why I'm looking for others. But if the group wants to just push through it and not consider that, that's fine by me. I've already made my comment.
Co-chair CMOB.
Appreciate it. I just want to, we are a commission that works on a consensus model. And I just want to be able to make sure that, we are all aware that we all have a mind on our shoulders and that we're able to make a decision. But I feel like I'm being pressured to think a certain way, which is an uncomfortable feeling. And I would just ask all of us to be able to make sure that we trust each other in our judgment and our capabilities to be able to look and analyze it, what we're reading, seeing, thinking about, and cast our decision from there and just move forward. Because this can't, I fear that this is a model of thinking that takes one item to consider and elongates it to a pace that will, eventually possibly become a habit for us as a commission. And I want to be cognizant that we may be creating a pretty bad habit here. And I worry of that. I appreciate everybody kind of taking time through this process, but I would encourage us to try and step forward and take a vote at this point.
I'll say I agree.
Thank you, Commissioner CMOB. So what I'm seeing is that there is not consensus. The co-chairs have not come to a consensus, or the committee has not come to a consensus.
I would like to just say that I will vote for consensus. I'm not trying to not do consensus. So if that's what you guys want, that's what I will do.
I also see that Sarah Ames, your camera is on again. Did you have something to say before? No? Okay. So at this point, Commissioner Glenn, are you putting yourself in a neutral place in order for?
No,
No,
no, I'm voting for consensus.
you're voting for consensus.
Yes.
Thank you. So do we have consensus with this language? Commissioner Monica. Just hands are up. These are all yeses. Okay, I'm getting yeses, yeses, yeses. Thank you very much. The commission has completed wait, we have more on this document, don't we? I can't see it. So if we could move to,
No, there's no more on it.
thank you.
That was the end.
I can't tell when, yeah, I couldn't quite tell. Thank you. Samir, the commission has completed a decision on this document, and the next agenda item is the, sorry, on the draft and internal processes, the internal process document. With all the changes we've made today, this will be incorporated into text, and there is an agreement on this decision. So we will move on to the next document. Thank you, Samir, or thank you, Christine. I believe you're the one doing the slide deck right now.
Nope, staff.
Oh, that was staff. Okay, I was right first.
Yep, you were.
Thank you.
Lovisa or CMOB, do you want to walk through this? Would you like me to do it?
Go ahead.
Well, Faith, I can do it. We can split it up. All right, so I think everyone has seen this internal processes document before. We had some suggested changes come in, so these are proposed edits that we'll be talking about, discussing, and moving to consensus around if everybody likes them, or at least if no one hates them. All right, so as you can see, a few of these are just small, like grammatical changes to make things a little more consistent. So a few additions were made. Always confront oppression. The next is allow those who participate in different ways or have types of participation or tasks they are responsible for to fulfill their roles. Another is do not denigrate the commission or your colleagues or collaborators. Another is refrain from public shaming or using shame and embarrassment as a tactic. Another is keep in mind that everyone has their own truth. And then the bottom three you see in red, accept that you will not always have your way, do not overstate or mischaracterize the work level of agreement or progress of the commission, and accept non-closure. So do we have any proposals or discussion around the language on this page?
Lavisa, could I also ask about the change, if you could explain this change too?
Oh, originally the language had said let the group know if you were unable to attend the meeting, but we just clarified with the group that you don't actually have to email the entire commission every time you have to miss. We just ask that you give notice. In general, we ask that you give notice to the co-chairs and staff. So we changed it to give notice if you were unable to attend a meeting. Any proposals, any strong opposition, any discussion on that language? Any strong opposition, I should say, in particular.
Commissioner Dan?
Well, there's a comment I made in the margin there. I don't know if I should have used the word will. I probably meant might. But I think these the items about denigrating and shaming might be used to suppress minority viewpoints and legitimate concerns about proposals, decisions, or actions. Is pointing out a factual error to be seen as shame or embarrassment. I'm really concerned about the subjectiveness of this ground rule, and I think somebody who was going to attend our meeting 2 weeks ago and didn't log in soon enough before it was called to an end, and isn't here tonight, pointed out to me that we have in the police bureau's labor contract, there's what's called the embarrassment clause, where they say, discipline should be done in the way to least embarrass the officers. And I think, we community members, we're not trying to embarrass the officers. When we want to find out if they got disciplined for hurting a fellow community member, we want just to know the truth. And I think sometimes, it's kind of been suggested that, if somebody's not at a meeting, that saying their name could be an embarrassment, but it's public record who's at our meetings and not. And I really like to have, the language, the words denigrate, shaming, and embarrassment change to something that's less subjective if we're going to keep these in. That's my suggestion.
Thank you, Commissioner Handelman. What is your proposal, or what's your proposed language, if any?
Sorry, I didn't come up with any specific language. I'm just concerned about the language that's there. Sorry.
Co-Chair Faith?
Yeah, Commissioner Handelman, I hear you. And also, this whole list is so subjective, so it's really hard to be like, what's really putting a fine tooth on denigrating and shaming. But in saying that, I do think to me, the tone of the community agreements is not a list of how we don't show up. It's a list of how we do. And so I think we could take the inverse of shaming and embarrassing of, when pointing out, or like when making comments, call in instead of call out, or invite curiosity. I think that there are many ways that we can say this that aren't shaming or denigrating. And I also think that people who shame and embarrass as a tactic know that they're shaming and embarrassing as a tactic. And I don't imagine, so I feel I'm contradicting myself in that I feel it strongly about it being explicit of, if I shamed or embarrassed you as a tactic to get my way, that is monumentally inappropriate. And so I just don't know how we get around saying that.
Thank you, Co-Chair Faith. Commissioner Angie?
Hi, although I understand that line is subjective, refrain from public shaming, I'm not sure how to put it, what words to use instead. But Faith is correct that I feel that this entire list is subjective, but I think that every single one of these is a reminder that we're trying to work together with respect, and this is hard work, and we're all going to get tired and frustrated. And, what at one point might not seem like it's public shaming to other people, somebody could be really sensitive about something. And I'm not saying that I was sensitive about it, but I can understand, we are putting a lot of hours into this, and I could understand being really tired and at the end of my rope, and somebody saying something that seemed like public shaming, and maybe maybe it wasn't meant to be public shaming, and maybe it is part of the public record, but I want us all to be very careful with each other's feelings or each other's point of view. So that's all I wanted to say about this. I don't know if we should change the actual wording of that, but this entire list is basically really just all of us committing to respecting each other and the work that we're doing. So, and I appreciate everybody's work. So that's what I'm going to say. Thank you.
Are there any other comments on the proposed changes to this document or this portion of the document? Is there any strong opposition? I see your Commissioner Charlie.
When that was first read, and I can't read it on the screen, it's too small, and I'm having trouble finding it on here. But what would it look like if we left that wording out and maybe just simply put what the previous commissioner just suggested in that one little sentence to be respectful?
Are you speaking about refrain from public
From
shaming?
public shaming or using shame and embarrassment as a tactic? Yeah, just remove that and put in the flip side, the positive of being respectful.
Commissioner Handelman.
Yeah, so Commissioner Wesley, that language is actually there. It says treat each other with respect and be supportive of each other at the top. You know, just the line above, actually the two lines I was talking about, the denigrate the commission or your colleagues. I'm also a little worried about how that gets interpreted. So, but I think you're right. I think both of the last two comments are correct. But it says treat each other with respect and be supportive of each other. That covers not denigrating people and not shaming people. So maybe we can just leave those two extra lines out and continue with what we already have in the ground rules.
Commissioner Glenn, and then did you have your hand up again, Commissioner Charlie?
I was just agreeing.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to use a couple examples, and I understand Mr. Handelman's concerns, and I also understand Angie's concern. When you're saying things or doing things from your perspective, it's very important to look at the perspective of the other person or the other entity, and how that might look to the other group. And I think that's where that shaming comes into play. Maybe an individual doesn't think that that's what they're doing, but that's the ultimate effect. I will say, saying and doing things in a public light that brings negativity to the commission on our progress and on how we do things in a public way. It feels like that sentence applies. I've seen some of that already in our group, calling out people in a way that's inappropriate. And maybe people don't feel that they're doing anything wrong, but I think keeping that language in there allows us to think about how things look from another point of view and to keep that in mind. That's it. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? I know there's a lot of people that haven't spoken up, and I would like to encourage folks that haven't spoken up today to use your words, your thoughts. It's important.
Omide, did we have May's comment read
I don't think,
in the chat?
can you read it? I don't think I saw it.
May says, I also vote to change the language on will not always have your way.
Thank you. I missed that.
May, can I ask if you have any proposed language change for that? You can put it in the chat if you can't speak. We'll read it in.
Ayumide, Monica, Angie, and Winta have their hands
Oh,
up.
thank you, because I
Yes.
my screen changed too, and I was just about to say,
Mhm, yeah.
Commissioner Monica.
I would like to say that it feels better to me to treat each other with respect and be supportive of each other. And I think that having that in there covers do not denigrate and refrain from public shaming. And I would support us taking out those two lines and just, treat each other with respect and be supportive of each other. I feel like it gives a document a positive outlook versus bringing up negatives.
Commissioner Angie.
Thank you. I with these guidelines or with this agreement, I don't necessarily, I'm always behind less is more for the most part, but with this agreement, I just I do believe that more is more sometimes, and it's kind of a little reminder, but not even addressing what Commissioner Monica just mentioned, but for the part that May had said, honor the decisions of the group and then accept that you will not always have your way. Instead of saying accept that you will not only have your way, maybe make those two lines into one line and say, honor the decisions of the group, even if it isn't what you were thinking, or something to that effect. Might be a little bit kinder, but I do like the reminder in all of these words. Not that anybody has ill intentions, but I think that with as much work as we are doing, once again, and as tired as we all are, it is easy to slip into something that might offend somebody else. And I know that I am constantly trying to keep a check on what I'm saying and how others might feel by what I'm saying. And just this list is meant to be a reminder of just reminding us. It's not saying that anybody is doing this directly, but it's a really it's a strong reminder. Thank you.
I'd like to read what May put in the chat. I just think there's a better way, excuse me, I think there is a better, more professional way to say that. No, I do not have an alternative for that. I do worry the way it is phrased might make others hold back on commenting or participating. Thank you for that, Commissioner May. And Commissioner Winta, you had.
Thank you. I want to honor the language that's been suggested about refraining from public shaming and embarrassment. But can I suggest that we just add from the comment? So instead of taking it out, we just add another bullet point that says minority viewpoints and legitimate concerns about proposals, decisions, and actions will be heard. Like if we just address that concern, I think it's a value that we've already expressed, that all perspectives will be heard, which is why we operate on a consensus basis. But if we just pull it into a new bullet point.
Commissioner Jason.
I'm going to disagree with Commissioner Winter, but I think we need to remove these two items. They're both perhaps unintentionally stifle free speech. We're adults here. We take responsibility for our words and the consequences. If we agree to respect each other and be respectful, that should adequately replace these two lines. So I would have a strong objection to including these based on stifling of speech.
Any other comments or questions? Oh, thank you, Charlie, Commissioner Charlie. It's hard to see your hand in the corner. It blends in with everything. I apologize.
I should change that color.
No, please don't. Please don't.
It is hard.
I just have to look harder.
I just want to say when this was first read, I'll just tell you my feelings that it felt very oppressive with that wording. And I agree. I don't know if the right word is it needs to be kinder. It just needs to be less oppressive. And I can't think of another way to say it except removing it once again.
Commissioner Sophia.
May I make a suggestion? And I'm not trying to change people's minds. I'm just trying to find a solution. If we go back to those, the sentences that we're talking about now, is there a way we can wordsmith that into, I know I've heard the term more positive. I don't want to get rid of it, but I don't want it to be a negative thing for folks either. I want us to be able to express that, what we're trying to say. And I do understand that we're all adults, and I know that we're all, sometimes we're not older than our shoe size. So, and I know that happens. And whether we wanted to or not, for various reasons. So that's just my suggestion. Maybe we can just wordsmith that, but it's up to the group.
I want to put in Commissioner May. She says, I am thinking about how to reword the phrase I commented on. I want to add on to what Jason said. We are all adults and professionals. I'm thinking that we may, Lavisa, Co-Chair Lavisa, but I think we may need to table this.
I think we are thinking the same thought, Ayamide, which is that if we would like to end this meeting on time, which I believe we would like to do tonight, that means that we need to table this discussion and pick back up. I think we have the possibility of time that is opened up on Thursday to continue this discussion.
And May says, I do not vote getting rid of it. I just think that there's a more professional way of saying these things. So thank you, Co-Chair Lavisa. Co-Chair Faith.
I do want to end on time. It's 8:58. Can I make the invitation? So Thursday we have the hold. We'll take that time to finish this. If everyone could, I guess I'm not making this request as a co-chair, I'm making this request as faith person. I'd love to not use the whole meeting. If we could all just like give it a real thorough read and say, these are the absolute things that don't work for me, or these are the absolute things I need to see in here, so that we can just like jump right in and then come to consensus quickly on Thursday that's my request as Faith the person, not the co-chair.
Thank you, Co-Chair Faith. We have to make sure that we're not discussing agenda items. So just respecting the law. So with that being said, thank you for your comment. I think we're all pretty tired here, and you've all done a lot of really hard work today. So I just want to thank everybody for their time, and that we will have a meeting. I believe we'll have a meeting on Thursday, but you will be getting email from staff making sure that. Thank you. Samir, I see that you have your hand up.
Yeah, so two things. You'll get all the information about Thursday's meeting. It's on the website as well. That's all true what I may have just said. Just wanted to clarify as a wrap up on the letter decision, because that came up and there was a question of, what happens next. What happens next is that that letter gets it'll be formatted, put on a letterhead, all that kind of thing, no content changes, but just the formatting will get done, and then it'll be sent over to the city council. In the event that any response is received, which it may not be, but in the event that any response is received, they'll be communicated back to all the members of the commission as soon as that does occur, in whatever method it was sent to staff and co-chairs. So if they email, you get an email, whatever method of communication the council gives in response to that letter. Obviously some of that might be visible. If they decide to do a resolution, then that'll be known to you as well, because it's a public document. Yeah, and so that'll get done in the next few days here as well. So following that, just to get back to what Amita was saying, thank you to everyone for being here. Thank you to the interpreters supporting access for everyone, and thank you to the members of the public for being here as well. We will be taking public comment on this document before any decision is made on it, as that's not been decided upon today. It won't happen today, but it'll happen before we take a decision on it. And you can read on here, and it'll be in the chat and on the website as well, how to sign up for more emails, updates on things, as well as on how to give public comment to the commission in advance of future meetings. And with that, Amita, if you'd like to adjourn.
Thank you. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all.